On the call the board selecting special meeting on the Swift House task force and the review with for the Silver Petrocelli's brief back to us. So we do have one absence right now. He will be joining us a little bit. That's Glenn. So, okay. Any comments on our agenda for today from any of our loyal followers?
Was there an updated draft that came in for today's meeting?
Yeah, it was on the. It was in the folder. Supporting documents.
Didn't have any Wi-Fi.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, it is.
Do you have a copy of?
I don't. Joyce, if you're on, we have an extra copy for Zan, since she didn't have a chance to look at that. I don't know if we can. Are you on, Joyce, or you? Oh, she did that. Anyway. Well,
I mean, this is gonna be important.
there he is. She wasn't. But she said she's still on.
Maybe I'll say it back.
You got.
Yeah,
So.
I will make.
Okay, thanks. All right,
we have it started.
We'll make a pause.
Okay.
Yeah. But we'll just go ahead. Yeah. Tim and David, thank you for taking the time to come back on today.
You're welcome.
There is no other comment, except we don't have copies, which we'll get.
I'm sorry.
It's all right. Yeah, we always try to put it at least in the supporting documents on the agenda. So,
If it would be helpful, we have it up, we could share our screen and
right. That's
scroll
what we
through
want.
that if you would like. Tim or myself could pull that up and share it for you if that works for you too.
Yeah, David, we'd like to do that. We'll just give people a copy, just give a second, and then we'll just so they can write on it, scribble notes, whatever, as well. Okay, just so they have a hard copy.
Great.
Some of us will, but yeah, we'll let you guys go ahead and share it and then get to the pertinent info for there. So,
Okay, Tim, if you want to do that, go ahead.
you
If
want
not,
to
I
go ahead and call it up? Can you do that? Can you share it?
Great. You're able to see that now. It's up, should be up on the screen.
Great. We can skip that. Yeah, you guys, Tim, do you want to give a brief overview of what we're going to be looking at today from your perspective? When we ask, based on the ADA.
Sure. So good afternoon, everybody. Again, David Stein and Tim Tack with Silver Petrocelli. After our last presentation, our direction was to go back and reevaluate or restructure the report to reflect the number one priority, which is to make the first level ADA accessible. So with that, we took the information that we had gathered and we readjusted those line items and included that within our plan and also within that ranking system. Some of the questions that came up at the last meeting was a bit of our subjectiveness between what we determined to be priority 1, 2, 3, 4, so forth, to ones that were just directed towards the first level. So with that, Tim, I'll have him walk you through how he restructured the report and walk you through the floor plan to reflect that. We also did a bit of code research related to the requirement of having an ADA parking space, to our entry into the building, and our count required for the number of restrooms on the first level, and so forth. So I'll turn it over to Tim, but that's sort of the preamble to the revisions within the report. It's still dated as a draft until you've sort of approved it officially, and then we'll publish it as a final. It's dated April 9th, so you can distinguish between what we gave you at the last presentation and what you have for today. So go ahead, Tim, and kind of scroll on through. I know some of them have a printed report with them, but if you want to sort of zoom in and scroll down, that'd be great.
Sure. So this report has been restructured to really focus on the ADA accessibility requirements needed on the main floor. And priorities 1, 2, and 3 correspond to the issues that need to be corrected to satisfy ADA compliance. Priority 1 is approach and entrance. So that's everything leading from the street or parking area to the entry of the building. Priority 2, access to goods and services, is basically it's addressing access to spaces through doorways, and so any of the programmatic spaces or anything like the kitchen countertops, access to the sink is addressed in priority 2. And priority 3 is specifically related to toilet rooms. In priority 4, we have code, health, life, safety issues. That is a bundle of the code issues that are on the second floor. The issues, potential issues with the framing on the main level, and the roof rafters. And then let's see, main storage room.
Tim, can you zoom in on that just a little bit more so we can read it here? I think some people don't have that initial.
I'm sorry, I didn't catch that.
Yeah, could you just zoom in on that, make it a little bit bigger on our screen here? If you
Yeah.
can do that. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Yep. So yep, priority 4. And so so it's the framing issues, the roof. It talks about the main floor storage room, the pitch of the floor and how it needs to be restructured and flattened out. And then I also have the issues leading up to the second floor. It discusses restructuring. The stairs are, it also has a segment in it about changing the use to an apartment and what that entails, as far as creating a fire separation between the first floor and second floor. This kind of direction would also lead to the need for an enclosed stairwell, which I included as an alternate on the drawings. Moving on to priority 5, building performance issues or building envelope. This really relates to the enclosure of the building, with the windows and the insulation. And priority 6 is finishes. So it would be interior walls, ceilings, floors, and exterior siding. And I also wanted to say that the priorities 1, 2, and 3, updating those ADA requirements, also is triggering the need to, update your heating, your cooling, and electrical. Not on a full capacity, but, if you look at the outline, you'll see the effect it has and the cost related to it.
Where did that come in priorities?
Tim, can you explain that? Because I'm mystified by that. How is the HVAC system tied to the ADA?
Right.
Well, changing out or redoing a bathroom is definitely gonna need you to do a new plumbing there, new electrical. The heating and cooling, that's not necessarily a requirement, but based on the conversation we had last time, we talked about the idea of the space being heated and cooled. I know that, someone mentioned in the summertime the need for cooling the space for the people that are gonna use it.
It's not really like a code requirement, right?
No,
Okay, all right.
Well, if we're making modifications and we're doing a renovation and adding a bathroom, whatever systems are adjusted by that one space, we need to bring those systems up to code. So the reason why HVAC is referenced for a bathroom, for example, is exhaust, right? You need exhaust to go. So, and that's that's a fairly simple system in terms of exhaust fan, in a bathroom and so forth. But in terms of heating, if we're connecting to the existing system, how are we connecting that to make that work? Are we adding other ventilation into that space? So it's related, it's a byproduct of the extent of the renovation. And I think that's what we were trying to make sure we don't lose sight of when we're doing these ADA improvements and we're moving walls and we're putting in new systems. There's ancillary items that tie into that level of renovation and alteration. The building code has different levels of alteration. A level 1 alteration is, think of it as just you're changing carpet and paint. You don't need a building permit. You can do that on your own, your house or in a residential building. Once you start moving walls and doors, you enter into a level 2 alteration, and that begins to trigger other code requirements that go along with it. So there's a bit of a path that you take through depending on the extent of the work. So that's sort of the context that we're trying to explain within the report.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
so, the second part of the report talks about the proposed site plan, first floor plan and second floor plan. And I made modifications to the site plan just to include one ADA parking spot and then a path that leads to an ADA entrance from, a ramp on the back on the south side of the original building. And, the proposed second floor is basically the same as was proposed last time. The only thing I added was an alternate for an enclosed stairwell on the exterior. If you decide to go the route of changing the use and making it an apartment.
It has to be on the exterior, did you say?
It has to be enclosed, like a fire rated enclosed stairwell. There really isn't a lot of space to create an enclosed stairwell in the existing building.
There are 2 stairways to the second floor. One of them neither is the code. But
Right.
they might be able to be made to code. Would that satisfy the requirement, or does it have to be an exterior stairway?
It needs to lead to the exterior. It needs to be wide enough. It needs to have a proper, enclosure or rated enclosure. for that. So the solution is, you know, as you see, it's often you add on to that as opposed to take floor space and modify the existing structure accordingly. Either one of those solutions are acceptable. It would have to be just an evaluation of cost effectiveness to do so. So, you know, that could be explored through the next step of any design development. But typically adding on that second means is typically more cost effective than trying to sort of surgically remove the structure and opening up that area to now make adjustments to fit that in the existing framing.
I was just scouring.
Yeah, I think that's Tim, maybe somebody that's talking to Tim.
Tim, yeah, I think you got some background noise if you want to let the team know.
Yeah, he was muted. Yeah. Tim, you now probably need to unmute Tim, so we can hear if you're talking, going through this.
Apologize for that. All right, sounds like looks like he'll be back. Thanks, Tim.
Okay, yeah.
Apologies. All right, why don't we continue on, Tim?
Okay, so the recommendations, talk about, addressing those ADA requirements first. And then doing at least, investigating the roof framing, the floor framing, looking at those rear porch deficiencies. The fact that they're not sitting on any footings, they don't have an appropriate ADA required steps, risers, and handrails, guardrails. Let's see.
Would all of the entrances require that or just the ADA entrance?
You just need an ADA entrance, but those steps aren't ADA compliant. But you just need one leading into the building and as an exit. Yeah, and then so the long term is really looking at the priority 4, 5, and 6 together as a long-term intervention to renovate the building. I talk about the full plaster removal or renovation doing simultaneously with the thermal envelope. If you guys do decide to do that, it's more cost effective to do those, to group those together. Mechanical, electrical. Are there any things that you guys want to specifically review or go over?
I know one of the things we were talking about last time was all the parking.
Yeah, you are wanting to.
The parking outside was one of the things that we discussed, we were concerned about last time.
Yeah.
Yeah, they suggest that.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Tim, do you want to start with you want to go to the outside and look at your, the entrance and the parking area next? And I'm sure we'll generate other questions from there, but before we get to the priorities, just maybe through yeah, there you go. Yeah.
Wow.
So
the driveway utilizes the existing gravel dirt driveway to minimize the site impact. There is an accessible parking spot adjacent, and then a concrete pathway leading to a back south entry ramp into the building.
Back to South End.
I didn't look at this close enough.
Yeah, they moved the entry
Yeah,
to the
instead
back.
of the porch, it's
Yeah.
going around.
But it's not even the door that we were talking about.
No, there isn't.
Right,
a door there.
here, right? That was originally, we thought we'd go to that.
Yeah, there is a door there.
Right,
That door is there.
right, that
It's
door's
to
there.
to the east of the bulkhead,
Mhm.
west of the bulkhead, excuse me, yeah.
No, I'm just saying, but he's not, where is the entrance? Where is the ramp leading to? Where is the door that it would go into?
It goes to the door that's,
Yeah.
In the chamber.
Right.
Chamber
Chamber.
office.
So can you explain the thought behind that? Why is that best?
It's a different option to incorporate a ramp. It's less height than the front of the building, the front or the east side that was originally placed is 35 inches. This would only be 18 to 20 inches. So it's going to be less impactful on the site. It's going to be less impactful on the size and scale of the ramp. You won't need any guardrails for that height. So it's minimal in that
is-
sense.
What is the dotted line to the right of that?
This is showing where a stairwell enclosure could go if you decided that you wanted to further develop the second floor as a separate use,
That makes sense.
as like an apartment, and you'd have an enclosed stairwell there.
I also wanted to point out on the ramp being sort of located back there preserves the architectural integrity of the front of the building without having a ramp, which is a bit utilitarian and its
Yes.
look, right? So, calling it the back of the building or the side of the building, I think as there were many additions, just the overall scale of that just provides a bit better proportion. There's already access to that hatch there, so it's a bit more utilitarian in that way. Although I just want to also be mindful in terms of our universal design practices for ADA is that we don't like to create secondary access ways to a front entry of a building. So we have to be mindful that this needs to operate like it's the front entryway, and not essentially not send people with those needs around the back and to give them any undue extra pathway to get there. So this solution is trying to find that balance between that, but I do want to point out that in ADA we try to integrate that with the front entry, but it's often in historical buildings a secondary entryway is allowed and is proper practice. Our US Capitol has that with monumental steps to the front, but tucked to the side are the ADA accessible entry pathways. So there is that best practice that comes into play, and I just wanted to point that out when you're looking and asking for positioning of where that should or should not go.
So did you guys look at that other entrance that we were talking about, like, which is next to the storage room that butts out there?
Well, can I interrupt for a second? Because I think that this actually makes more sense for people in a wheelchair than to have to make another turn. Because when we first laid it out, we were looking at that backside, but then we were gonna have them make a right-hand turn to get into that big door.
Yeah, I just want to know if they looked at it, because that would limit the use of that room.
You're talking about this door here?
Yeah, that one there, yeah.
Yeah, I have an option for it. It you would need a lot more square footage because you'd have to have landings to turn to get into here. This option is definitely the most minimal because it's a straight shot. But I have an option where I do wrap around and it essentially ends up at the same,
Okay,
where the starting point. Yeah,
It also eliminates the nice little garden back there. If you moved it all the way
that's true.
to the right end of the building where you have the dotted line for the stairway, there could still be a garden there, and it could be, you know, along the fence, more or less.
Well, I don't know how important that garden really is.
I mean, it's just,
I don't know either, but I do know that we need to have that space. That space of that room needs to be able to be usable, and making it the front entrance for ADA accessibility. We have to think long and hard about.
Oh, I see what you're saying, because yeah, you're taking away the, for instance, the chamber.
Right, we couldn't use it
Continue to
as
use
a
that,
chamber,
Yeah,
as a chamber, you know,
or it would have to
space.
be, you'd have to put another petition in, and it would have to be smaller, which not be very attractive.
Well, I'm glad you looked at another
Yeah.
option.
yeah, thank you.
Yeah,
Yes.
and I also want to note there was a little bit of an issue when I put the ramp here. There wasn't a lot of clearance between the hatchway and the ramp to get down to the basement. It was really close to butting up against it.
Do we have to keep the hatchway?
You have to have some access to the basement.
But we have it through the. Do you have to have more than one access to the basement?
If it's not an accessible area, if it's not a used space, if it's only for hatchway and what, depending on the mechanical equipment down there, you technically, you got to evaluate what you're doing with the mechanical systems, because that may trigger a second means of egress and for access. So if there's a large piece of equipment, you need something bigger than the stairwell to get that out of. That'd have to be explored at a further design development stage.
What's there out, and whatever comes in, might be a lot smaller, yeah.
Right.
So we didn't have a lot of time to look at this. I know you guys worked really hard to pull this together quickly, but is this, this access to the back here, is this, what's the price difference between going through the porch?
I'm sorry,
Is
the
it
price
cheap?
difference between what?
Is it cheaper or is it more expensive to do this access?
It would be cheaper to do to put the ramp this way. You'd have more expense on the concrete pathway, but the ramp would be less extensive.
Good.
Yeah.
I have real reservations about the access, the main access for accessibility going into that room.
Well, depending on how it's used.
I know, but we would be set by, if we went with this plan, we would be setting as a priority, the access would be the priority, not, we'd have to find a different spot for the chamber if they wanted to continue storing things.
Yes.
Well, the chamber then switched to the backside, the
Yeah.
south side.
It would be easier for them to get all their stuff in and out.
I'm just highlighting it because we have to think about it.
Right, no, it's a very, very good point, Lynn. I just think that there
It goes
is.
back to what you really plan on doing with the building. I mean, if it's gonna be the storage area for the chamber, sure, it's not totally that. But if the chamber's gonna occupy it or something else like that, then, yeah, then we'd have to look at potentially, if we keep it, what you're saying, like, keep it that way, we'd have to probably find an alternative, or just turn it into an office and storage for their materials. They'd have to go somewhere
Yeah,
else.
there
I
is,
mean, potentially could have a small,
there's a
one or two desk
pretty
office.
large storage space built in right next to this, the stairway there. it would also depend upon whether the chamber buys into making the chamber office also a welcome center or an information office. In which case, that would be great to have the ADA access come right into the information office.
Yeah, I don't think that they have immediate plans to do that, according to my conversations with the current president.
We've already.
Yeah, so their only interest right now is storage.
So I kind of, if somebody else would then take over putting a visitor center or something, I think it does make sense to have it in that run front, because then you can get to it from Main Street and you, I mean, from
Right.
street and from.
We lose them.
Oh, we may have. I think they're frozen.
Yeah.
No. And I don't hear anyone else either. I don't know. Is anyone else still here? I don't know.
I don't know, they just went black.
Yep. Yes, they did.
All right, we should be back on.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we lost you for a second. We can't see you, but we could hear you.
Yeah. Oh, we're good.
There we go.
Oh, okay. Now we see you.
Okay, cool.
Many buttons. Okay, I was saying to you, if you guys want to continue on with some description of the ADA outside, we've got the entranceway understood, and the ADA compliant entranceway. Going to talk about some of the other, any other modifications, bathroom, the kitchen area, things like that, if you want to finish up there.
Sure. The toilet room's still in the same location. The one thing I did get rid of was the drinking fountain. Because if it just maintains as a business use with offices, it'd be less than 15 occupants, so you wouldn't need a drinking fountain there.
We wouldn't need,
The
didn't
change.
hear that, wouldn't need what?
Maybe changing.
Oh,
A drinking fountain.
a drinking fountain.
Yeah.
Okay, so the other major or big change was instead of having a kitchenette, I designated a full room for a kitchen. And the back south older addition. And that has access from the exterior stairs. But otherwise it's similar to the last version.
So where you have storage there, the
Yep.
room where we now have shelves and chairs.
Yep.
Is that, did you close off the entrance to the middle room from there so that it's only open to the back?
No, it's the way it is.
No, it is.
Well,
No.
for flexibility.
To the right of the fireplace is the entrance to the storage room.
Yeah, the thing I removed here was a little closet. And then I'm proposing to open up this doorway. Same thing on the other side of the existing chimney.
So keep the two doorways that we have now.
But getting rid of the doors.
Yeah, but
The
the
doors, yeah,
storage
they just
space
open.
becomes smaller.
Walk through area.
So where's the kitchen as a whole?
Yeah, the whole back.
Across the whole room.
The backside.
Yeah. Back here.
Yes, that back room down, you know,
Yeah, the
Go into
one
that.
that garden club uses and that.
it's big enough, I mean, actually to be converted to a kitchen. functional kitchen, so that needs to be.
Yeah. We did kitchen that level.
Maybe we should find out from the chamber how much storage space they actually need.
Yeah.
So Tim, that tagline, A04, number 2 priority, that $40,000 refers to that kitchen in the back.
Yeah, that's
In its,
correct.
in its totality, okay. Is there any price tag if we redid the current kitchen,
Did you,
kitchenette?
did you investigate the possibility of putting the kitchen where the storage is now to the right of the fireplace? You know, where
The storage room,
Yeah,
it's too small.
Yeah, it's too small to be able to make fully ADA compliant. You could see just by the scale of the door. You know, that door is essentially, almost a 3-foot door, so you need to be able to turn around within that space. You need 5 feet of turning radius and clearances to swing around and maneuver.
So pretty much just to get a layout, everything that we're looking at on the first floor must be ADA compliant for a certain wheelchair base and so on, or whatever, right? That's how everything has to be linked in.
Yes,
Correct.
correct, either for staff or guests or, anybody that would enter into the building. And, remember ADA is not just for people in wheelchairs. Those clearance requirements are for somebody with a cane or just giving people good maneuverability, be able to maneuver in and out of a space. So it's usually wheelchair is the largest impediment that's there to maneuver, but there's also other people with ambulatory issues that come into play when we're looking at ADA requirements.
And you also referenced that everything needs to be like on this, and I don't remember what the right wording was, but the same level, so there can't be any differences in elevation.
Yes, correct. So any change in elevation needs a ramp or some level of transition, so there can't be steps at any single steps. Actually, single steps aren't allowed even in the building code, even if we had another accessible pathway. So yes, everything should be on the same level.
Yeah, if it's a ½ inch, you can add a transition strip. But anything more than a ½ inch would have to be.
But
Okay.
it's often that 2 floors are at different heights. You may transition from a wood floor that's thicker to a different floor. That is allowed, but it can't, as Tim mentioned, that transition can't be higher than an inch. And it also there's a level tolerance to it. So that's always a challenge in existing buildings. If the floors are not perfectly level, that if they are out of level to a point, they're actually not flat enough to be considered ADA accessible. I don't think we have that situation here, but
We do in the
that-
storage room.
yeah, okay, yeah.
so I'm presuming that where you come into the large porch, into what we consider the main room there, the lines you have drawn are the beams there, not partitions, are they?
Right,
Okay,
yeah. That's
Okay.
I'm showing the beam above.
all right. On the screen, it didn't show as a dotted line until you expanded it.
Yeah.
So, just wanted to make sure.
No worries, all right, we'll troubleshoot. Sure. I'll call you. All right, thank you.
So there's no problem if we want to do this in phases, right? If we want to tackle the accessible entrance in the back and the toilet in the main floor, if those are like our 2 projects that we want to do we have to, I mean, as long as we plan it and say, okay, that's our phase 1 and then our phase 2 is X, Y, and Z, we're okay with the ADA, correct?
That was our understanding.
The first three priorities address all the ADA compliance.
What was
on
the
main
third?
floor. The
Toilet.
bathrooms, yeah, toilet.
Right, yeah. Okay. And what does, two is, I had written down access to goods and services.
Yeah, so
What-
that would correspond to the doorways, to the kitchen. Yeah, any issues with the floor grades?
But I guess my question is, we've been told we can't open the building by our town attorney until it's ADA compliant. So as long as we do the two things of the accessible entrance and the toilet, can we do the other things like, main floor level doors and hardware and main floor level kitchen? Can we do those as a second phase? As long as we get because we'd like to have the building open again.
Yeah, the doorways definitely correspond to the access to the space.
And then any of those other amenities, goods and services all apply to that. So if there are cabinets or casework or furniture or anything within that first floor that is going to be used has to be ADA accessible. So there isn't a pathway in the code that lets you do things within phases. Your level of alteration is going to trigger that. If you're going to use the entire floor, then that entire floor needs to be ADA accessible.
Well, the entire floor is not open to the public really at this point.
If it's open even to staff, so to try to even have staff use that, if you're going to embark on that, you're going to be required to do it in some totality. You're not able to do it in small phases.
To follow with that, so a very large portion of goods and services is mechanical systems, number two. So demoing the furnace systems, 40,000, the heat pump is 102, ventilation 45. And you've already talked about those, but do we need to upgrade that immediately?
No. So those are not, so your access to the mechanical room doesn't need to be accessible, but so no. But here's where the question is, how much could you then demo and reconnect to the existing? Or are you at a point where you're redoing these spaces that you want to redo those mechanical systems? Now, that would be the more cost-effective way of doing it, is to do this in totality, but you are not required to upgrade those components. You would just be tying, a new bathroom into existing infrastructure.
And I'm assuming part of the reasoning for all of that is to move the kitchen, which I mean, we never even talked about moving the kitchen. So probably, some of that work involves that. So if we don't move the kitchen, if we do nothing with the kitchen currently, that's $40,000. So that's $210,000 of the blue. That's the majority of the blue right there. So you're telling us that we don't have to do all of that immediately?
If you're going to be using the kitchen, you need to make the kitchen fully accessible. From that, the question is, how much else?
I mean, we could temporarily not have a kitchen, just have a coffee machine.
Do we need a kitchen that's workable? Do we need a kitchen at all?
I would think it's a kitchenette, because we're just sort of what we've got.
Yeah.
But it's not ADA compliant, that's what they're saying. Kitchenette, keeping a small kitchenette, even moving into the storeroom for a sink and a thing would not be ADA compliant.
Well, where the storage is,
Yeah, that will-
across from, next to the stairway, that could be an operable kitchenette, with refrigeration, a coffee machine, a counter.
It could be eventually. Again, do
Yeah.
we need it now?
Well.
I mean, we want a kitchen.
You know, we were all of the understanding that if we have the entrance in the bathroom, then we could reopen the building. And on the planning, we could plan to do this in a phased way but that's not what we're hearing.
But if he's saying if the kitchen is what we're doing, we're gonna put in a kitchen, it's gotta be ADA compliant.
Sure,
Right.
if we do that.
So if we have to take out, he's saying if you have a kitchen, it has to be ADA compliant.
So we'd have to
So
take out even what
we
we've
would
got.
have to remove the kitchen. Are we understanding that correctly? We would have to
Yeah,
remove.
so,
the kitchen?
so whether you're redoing the kitchen or you're creating, if it's a kitchen or a kitchenette, you know, you need to make that space ADA accessible. In terms of the mechanical systems that go about that, it depends on what you're looking for, but I don't think that's gonna trigger you. That doesn't trigger you replacing all your mechanical systems. Our advice, though, is if you're embarking on a renovation of that floor, this is the opportune time to do the mechanicals and the alterations on that floor, because then all the systems are going to be tied together, as opposed to you sort of patching into from new to existing, that transition of trying to make it work. We would have to evaluate to what degree we could cap into, but if that's how you'd want to proceed in a phase way, you just need further design exploration to do so. But anything that on this floor that is going to be used needs to be ADA accessible. So then it's a degree of how much do you alter of that.
Sort of a chicken and the egg situation. We don't quite know what we're gonna be using the building for, so we don't know what the building's gonna be used for. Do we need a kitchen?
Well, I mean, I think we got what we asked for, you know, these gentlemen, they gave us cost estimates. They've given us a plan of how this building could be renovated. And so we can now go to the townspeople and say, this is an option.
We need to digest it a little more.
Yeah.
I feel like,
So we have another meeting tomorrow
yeah.
at the Swift House?
Atmosphere.
At the Swift House
Yeah.
with Marina and Todd with Shipman. So, so how do we want to proceed?
Well, it's separate from tomorrow. This is separate from tomorrow.
Yeah, I don't really want to make a decision right now.
Well,
I mean,
there's no decision to be made, really.
No.
Well, they want us to say yes, so they can say it's the final plan.
Can we
I'm not
have
ready
ready
for
time to digest it?
I think I'd like a week
Yeah.
to look,
Yeah.
to consider
I
and,
would like at least tomorrow to see what happens.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean,
I would like Marina to take a look at this.
I think that's a very good idea. Yeah.
I would disagree because that's not the plan.
she's not gonna have anything to say about this.
No, but
Exactly.
she will have
She
an
has an
opinion
historical
on the
perspective, not an updated plan or ADA compliant.
But she may have an
No, I'm
opinion
not gonna
on the
allow,
next.
I'm not gonna allow it tomorrow as part of our workmanship, but we can go back later if we have to, but let's let her do the historical review of the building. And not get involved in this before we even had a chance, agree with Linda, that really to digest this and see what options we want to look at and how we might want to proceed if we're going to go to informing the public on how far we've gotten with this. And get some idea, feedback. I think we need to stick with the Shipley original plan, to talk about the historical
Yeah,
registration.
yeah, because.
So we're trying to get this building on the state historical registry.
Right.
Will any of these changes affect that, Tim?
No, sorry.
Anything in this report, will anything in this report damage our ability to get this building on the state registry?
No,
No,
I don't think so. No, not at all. I
No,
mean,
'cause-
it's, no, we're making reasonable accommodations to ADA. The work on the inside is not mandated by historical significance. Interiors are rarely ever considered under an historical covenant. So, no. we can
And
still
you've made
sort of-
you've made an effort to accommodate the ADA entrance and a potential second floor exit where it's not visible from the street
Absolutely,
too,
yeah.
so I think that's better than ramps on the side. Yeah.
So have you worked with that office before?
Yes. Every day.
Is it, so you've worked with that office before, so has there been some kind of coordination between SHPO and you with plans, with buildings?
Yes, it happens all the time. We're doing an historic library in Middletown right now. We actually met with them this morning on a building that we thought they may require us to keep, and they allow us to demolish as we're doing a major renovation to an historical. It was once a church and now it's their public library. So we're in front of them often. Our report here was sort of in the context of the RFP, which was to, explore the possibilities and provide you with a roadmap to then sort of move forward on options. So, I think what we've gotten to a point where we've demonstrated that the possibilities are here, and then those design decisions, just like you're talking about, will we renovate the kitchen? Do we do a kitchenette? Where do we place it? All of those can be explored in further design phase, but at least you're seeing an order of magnitude of what it's going to cost to renovate and at least get the first floor, ADA compliant.
One of the things that we talked about in our last meeting, I don't see here in the second floor plan. We talked about having a second lavatory, restroom at the top of this, that would be accessible at the top of the stairs. So there's a very big bathroom there that could be made into a powder room and a private bathroom if the second floor were used. This is downstairs.
So are you
Oh.
talking about the
Second floor?
second floor?
So just want to note that anything on the second floor without an elevator is not designated to be accessible, so we wouldn't.
No, it wouldn't be accessible because there wouldn't be any use of the second floor that would require accessible. I mean, I think we would stay away from that because we don't want to put in a $400,000 elevator. And
Correct.
there's no other way to get to the second floor. So the second floor, we have among us, the Selectmen and the Swift House Committee have not really determined the use of the second floor because we were waiting for feedback from you about what would be required if the existing apartment were upgraded. And maybe as a part of that large bathroom could be accessible from the top of the stairway by perfectly ambulatory people.
What we've articulated now for you is a 1-bedroom apartment on that second floor. And there is a bathroom that we are showing. If you could see, Tim, could you zoom in, please?
The toilet room here.
Well, I mean, there are 2 bathrooms now.
Yeah.
And what is in the middle there?
An office
The
potentially.
office space, yeah.
Oh,
It's a bedroom.
anyway, could we put a small bathroom entrance from the landing at the top of the stairs?
Why? If there's another bathroom.
Because
Yeah,
you
we
don't want the public to go through the
I see
private
what you're saying.
apartment to
Okay,
get to
yeah.
the bathroom.
But we can't get up there
That's
until-
all possible. We're just trying to think of stacking plumbing and piping and so forth. So that could be explored at a next design phase, but any of that is plausible.
I mean, there is plumbing there now. That's what I'm saying, at the top of the stairs. Where you have
Where the office spaces. But if we do anything with public, then we have to get ADA
Well,
access.
the
to the second
ADA,
floor.
the ADA compliant bathroom would be on the first floor, and the second floor bathroom would just be for other people who don't require ADA.
Is that allowed?
Yeah,
that we don't have ADA availability to the second floor if it's a public access.
To a second bathroom.
It could be a non-accessible bathroom, but if there can't be additional spaces on the second floor that are not already on the first floor.
Yeah.
We're gonna turn it, right now it says office space, which would be accessible. That would have the ADA accessibility requirement. However, you go to a bedroom, make those bedroom storerooms.
Well, I think they've, in this
Why would they
plan,
put
they've made it
bathrooms?
into a private apartment.
Well, it's listed here as office space, so.
Yeah, it's a little
Yeah.
confusing,
Yeah.
David, because, you listed it as office space, but is this actually residential?
It could be
Could be.
either or depending on the labeling of that. So we wanted to sort of show you. I think what we're trying to prove is either way, you're gonna have a combination thereof. So if you wanted to make it residential, you would need an alternate for a secondary stair. If this is just an office space, we could have a single stair. And then, yes, you would most likely eliminate the kitchenette and it would just, then you could put a bathroom up there. That could be positioned depending on the best location that you decide. If anything we're demonstrating, you're limited on sort of your use of everything based on the existing or the rework stair in the center, and then your placement of the toilet, and then a placement of a secondary stair.
A quick question then back to what Glenn was saying regarding SHPO's relationship with you guys. You have your responsibility for sustaining any kind of historical basis is once the building has already been designated as a historical register, building, is that correct? I mean, so when you go to the library or the former church library, it's because it's already been designated that you need to coordinate with SHPO, right, on that side?
You're also required if there are other state funding. So even if it hasn't been designated, and based on the age of the building, they would still want an oversight to review the plans. You're at a stage now where I'm sure they're willing to have conversations with you and provide you with some guidance that's related to that. But they are, if it is designated, they are required. They have a mandate to have oversight over it. If it's not designated, but even if there's funding involved, they still have an oversight of this. But the work on the inside is that they essentially, they don't have any comment on that unless it affected the exterior. And that's where that exterior stair would come into play, and they would have question to what that would look like and where they feel it would be positioned, but the ramp, there would be very minimal oversight on that.
I just want to make sure I understand the second floor, that you're showing us right now. If it's residential, we need to have 2 stairs, is that accurate?
That is accurate. That is correct.
And if it's not residential, we could have 1?
Yes, because of
it's
the
the
size,
same-
it's so small.
Yeah, and it's the same use on the first floor and second floor.
Yes,
You won't need that separation.
because of the square footage. If it was a larger floor area, there is a threshold, then it would require 2 means of egress.
And by this floor plan, it is possible to make those front stairs ADA compliant?
Stairs are never.
No, I'm asking, it says new stairs ADA compliant on this
Yes,
plan.
yes,
Yeah,
and what that
widen the
means
stair
by
up.
that, what that means by ADA compliance is that it's just the handrail. We need a certain width, so we need to make that new stair wider. We need to make the rise and run of those stairs a certain dimension, and then the handrail needs to have a certain dimension. So that's what it means by ADA compliance, is related to sort of that handrail and those stair dimension requirements.
But the way
But
the
that would be
building is
required.
used would dictate different stair.
Say that again, Tim?
The way the building is used would dictate like if it was an apartment, it would require an enclosed stairwell. So that's
Right,
why
I
I'm showing
understand.
this here.
I understand.
If it were an apartment. And it has to be enclosed even though there's an interior stair.
Yeah, for the second stair.
Yeah, because the second stair, you sometimes see that in the past, that people would just have exterior stair with just a covered, it used to be old fire escapes and things like that that were used to renovate historic buildings. And the code looks as this as being an enclosed secondary stair.
And is that whether it's used as an office or an apartment, or only if it's used as an apartment?
Only if it's used as an apartment.
And have you investigated the possibility of making the rear stairway that comes down from what's listed there as the attic room, of renovating that so that it would be a code compliant stairway?
Yeah,
Not a
there's
building.
not, even just entering the stairwell on the main floor, there's not enough clearance to enter it. There's all kinds of complications when even your path into the main space. Right now it's an attic space with a vaulted ceiling. It didn't seem ideal to me to explore as a main entry into the.
Yeah, you would have to create a
floor.
hallway, a pathway. Your floor would have to have a separate loading capacity for the floor. Then the stair would have to be fully reframed and built to meet the height requirements and the width requirements of a new stair.
Because you're having it at lunch. You're not actually teaching people, you're just teaching them the topic. You get 10 people. Those 10 people hear about it, the other 40 people don't. And then
Okay.
those 10
Any
people
questions
know about it.
or
Now they have to either go on their own to learn.
any discussion on the cost of the grid? Any other discussion on the priority associated costs? And so I think it takes a little while to chew on it. Yeah.
Because it's confusing if you actually can ask the question about, why is this stairway here and what?
Okay. Well, at this point, then, tell you what, how about, I think we need to get together,
Yeah, we
a group, and discuss this again, without having to take a lot of your time. But we would like to because we do need to close out this with you, give us a chance to get together in a week or so, and then get back with you, and then final questions and so on, and then we close it out. Would that work for you, David? And Tim?
Perfect. Absolutely. Whenever it works best for you. And if there's any questions you have in between that, please send our way.
Okay.
Okay, thank you so much for your time
Yeah.
today.
Thanks.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Absolutely. You're welcome.
you.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you very much. Okay, do we want to set a time now? Can we know their schedule? Yeah. We're even.
Pretty open. I'm not gonna be, I don't have any travel plans.
No trouble.
Now it's summer.
I don't have my calendar with me, but
Okay.
I think I'm pretty flexible.
Week of the 15th, 16th, 17th, 18th, 19th. And open, you want to try?
I could do a week from today.
Week from today, 18th?
I think I could if it's the end of the afternoon like this.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
I could do 30 or whatever. better for you.
Three, yeah.
Three's good for you.
3:30 is actually.
Is that
3:30.
Thursday or Friday?
Thursday,
You
Thursday,
guys are
18th.
killing me. I'm never gonna get to yoga on Thursdays.
We have Wednesdays, we're kind of caught up with the.
So that would be
board finance.
Thursday.
Thursday?
What's the date? 19th?
Yeah.
18th, Thursday.
Can we do it earlier?
I was gonna say, what time is it, yoga?
4.
4?
Right now.
Right, well, yeah, we can do it, you want to try to 3?
Three.
Let's do 3 and then, I think we can be done by, our discussion part of it. Get a chance to look at this, make sure we get all the plans to you all. It is online, but if you need copies, we'll certainly get.
That's 3 o'clock, sorry.
So let's do 3 o'clock, then 3 o'clock on the 18th. And,
Right here.
and then we'll make sure we're done, so you,
Right here with us.
right here.
Right here with us. Yeah.
Would you wanna do it here, or you wanna do it there?
Yeah, it's with us.
Is there any benefit to being at Swift House?
You can look at things. and-
So, and to double check, tomorrow we are, it's what day?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I mean, go over plans and options and what might be. It's helpful to be in the space.
Can make that available for you guys to peek in, look if you need to walk in or something.
Yeah, for one thing, when we all went through together, you know, key to the chamber space.
Yeah, that's,
So-
I got to check, I
Yeah.
gotta get that. Joyce had one.
That would be helpful, especially since they're talking about the access right there.
Sure,
Yeah.
yeah, we'll make sure, I know, I was there once with Rick, a couple months ago, 2, 3 months ago, I guess. But we'll make sure we have that open. Chamber, no. Because it's really, chamber's just gonna be storing stuff.
Yeah, it's a waste of a prime
It really
space.
is.
Every
in
other
that
place.
building.
Yeah, so that's an important role.
Yeah,
And, you know, they.
It is, one of the rooms.
I mean,
actually
they
looks-
say
Their office, they did work out as a.
they hired somebody and they were going to make it an office that would be open on a regular basis. And the woman that was gonna work there loved the building. She was so excited about it.
But it's, you know, that things change.
Yeah, and then, but, you know, then the ADA issue came up, and so it couldn't be a functional office.
I just think for the chamber to be using it just, if that's all they need,
Yeah, we can.
we can put the door
We'll
up.
send a note to them and get them to actually step up and tell us what they're gonna, if they have a plan at all. to do.
No, I mean, I did talk to Phil and he
Right.
said,
No,
we
of
talked
course.
about it and we only want it for storage right now.
Okay.
Right,
And I clarified, I went back to him and said, I want to make sure I understand.
so we just need how much cubic footage really, or whatever you wanna call it, space they need for storage.
Yeah.
And then at that point, rent a locker.
Yeah.
At that point, that's all it is. We're
Yeah.
not gonna do all this to have it just use as storage.
I mean, but I think the thing we need to think about is, and that can be in our, talk about it next week, is like, you know, how do we present this to the town?
Yeah, so that's gonna be.
You know,
I mean, maybe they could use the ambulance, the former ambulance building for storage. Drive right up to it.
Because that, yeah, that room that used to be my office for years and years and years is a really nice place to work.
Yeah,
It's comfortable, it's interesting, you get to see all sorts of stuff, it's
It's just the second floor.
no, downstairs.
Fourth floor.
Yeah, that's what
and
historical
when the
society.
historical society had it, and they would have, you know, the holiday party. They would open the doors and you could actually circulate through, you know, from one space to another. And it was a very hospitable practice.
And actually, the place that now the chamber just, they call it a closet. That's where our archives were, but that was the original kitchen and it was a passageway.
Yeah.
You could easily make that a more circular.
So
As they
we
sort of
recommended it
indicated.
to them and they incorporated that in their
Yeah, I'd feel very badly if the chamber just was keeping that room for storage. This is a
Yeah.
nice room.
Right, it's part of the nice one.
plan.
With lighting in it.
So we're going to meet tomorrow at Steven's house. Then we're going to meet on the 18th here to talk about this plan. So if we want to approve this, are we approving it that day or subsequently? And if we want changes,
I
what
think
happens?
it needs some more jiggering.
Like if we want to jigger it more.
Yeah, that's a,
What's the
kind of looking at
next
that, what Jigga
So
said.
I
if they
think
have-
we meet without them
Right, that'll be Thursday.
to, you know, I mean, we can,
So
if
we
anybody
without
has some
them.
time.
And if we have recommendations or thoughts, like, okay,
Yeah.
we move this, we think about
Yeah.
this, send that to them, have them tell us when they'll be able to get back to us to do it. At that point, we'll be able to, I think, have our final look at what our discussions and thoughts are from next week's meeting.
Yeah.
To have them work on
As we
it.
do the regular
And then-
meeting, so that we can.
Yeah, that's the 24th, so we could actually do something on the 24th.
We can say,
Yes,
yeah,
we can, if we, you know.
if there's changes, we can
If there's
have
changes.
extension meeting for them, and then at our regular meeting, we can say yes.
I'm a little surprised that there isn't a little more leniency about phasing the ADA issues.
I think
Because your husband told me that you don't have to do it all at once.
Yeah.
That if you have the entrance and the restroom and the main space that is the most used, you know, that's totally accessible, that you don't have to do all the other doorways and, you know, everything else at the same time. As long as it's on the plan and you present it and say, we only have the money to do this in a phased way, this is a historic building, we don't wanna, you know, we're not building from scratch.
So.
Yeah, but I
And that there's a fair amount of some leniency for historic buildings.
How I've always understood it.
Right, well, this is interesting.
Yeah.
He said, he said.
Yeah.
So what's the truth?
Well,
We
I
think
mean,
there's leniency for some historic buildings. This is what we're gonna find out.
Yeah, we can certainly ask that question for sure.
But on the other hand,
Are they experts in this?
No.
this is
No.
inferior.
That's
but
not-
I
This
think-
is,
Well-
they're experts in, you know, the historic structure. Their grant making arms of their organization is about the historic nature.
I know, but
So-
they work together.
I understand.
Yeah,
And I knew that going into this meeting.
Yeah.
It was just,
Yeah.
so there is a lot of cooperation.
yeah.
I've never done this before, this is
Yeah,
brand new to
well,
me, so,
what's it-
but I do
But
know.
they're
that
not
they
the
work
ADA people. The
Sure.
ADA people are in the Department of Justice of Washington.
Yeah, and the
And-
ADA is really, I've heard this over and over again. The ADA is basically regulated by complaint.
Oh, yeah.
It's a member of the public trying to access something and not being able to, they make a complaint. And that's how things get fixed.
So if we were to do phase one, say our way,
Mhm.
and we'd be okay until somebody says, well, I want an ADA compliant kitchen as well.
Exactly.
Yeah,
That's,
That's my understanding.
Yeah.
so that makes a lot more sense, but.
which is why I asked about the kitchen, like,
Right.
I know we want a
Right.
kitchen, but do we
Right.
need a kitchen at all right now? I mean, an upgraded ADA kitchen.
Well, I don't think we need to develop that entire back room.
Yeah, that's,
No.
But it would be nice,
Yeah.
you know what would be nice is to talk to organizations that have used it in the past and want to use it in the future. Because maybe a kitchen's more important than we think. I don't
Well, the
know.
kitchen is important in terms of having someplace for refrigeration, if you're having a reception of some kind and you want to chill
Yeah.
beverage.
Well, can I speak to having spent 10 years down here
Yeah,
with all these other groups using it in addition to the Historical Society? I never heard anybody really complain about the kitchen. There's a working stove in there. There was a refrigerator. There was a sink. Yes, it's tight quarters. But for the most part, nobody ever said we need a much bigger kitchen. There were a lot of families that would have picnics. People would bring stuff. Yeah, it was, you just heat a liquid stuff up. It never came up that kitchen was not substantially big enough.
I remember people talking about that at the
Yeah.
historical party though, that.
Well, it's
only one
perfect.
person could be in that kitchen.
Yeah.
It's not perfect, but how the amount of time, well, and of course, it depends on what we end up using it for, but the amount of times that kitchen was used, it didn't often come up. You know, maybe once or twice it did, but you're balancing a lot of money against an occasional use.
But the flip side is if it was there, people might find it more attractive to rent the building.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
It's
very
like
good,
the-
but I'm just saying in terms of
Yeah.
not trying to have to do it right away.
Oh, I know, I think it could be phase two.
Right.
It doesn't have to be phase one.
I mean, if we just decide right now that we're not gonna do an ADA, that we're not gonna do a kitchen, they don't know that we're thinking, well, maybe we'll do it down the road if somebody complains.
Well, I think it should be fair. If you're gonna start nickel and diming this and not show them the whole thing behind the curtain, you're gonna do the iceberg
Well,
thing.
yeah. you're
That's
right.
not fair to the town, saying now we're taking on a building that
Right.
eventually you're gonna have to put your air conditioning in, because people aren't gonna wanna go there if they don't have air conditioning or heating system in the winter. And
That's a
then
good
you
point.
start doing that,
Yeah.
and then what do you do on the
Yeah.
second floor? Is the
Yeah.
structure's good enough and the windows holding up? And we find ourselves $1.9 million into a structure that people are like, whoa, hold on now. Is it worth that kind of investment in the totality?
But if you took 10 or 15 years to make renovations, I'm part of a group that spent 53 years renovating the Merwinsville Hotel. I mean, you don't have to do it all at once.
we do not. We do not.
But it's,
So-
all right, but speaking from the town's perspective, maybe there's other structures that would be put to use if some of that money was put into develop that. I'm not saying down the line, we're not looking at the potential of a larger need in town, but I don't know. I mean, I'm just not sure. I see office space and who are we building office space for? Is it for the town's use?
I don't like the terminology they've used.
I know that.
They've labeled things office, they've labeled things meeting room.
Well, maybe
We
that's
didn't
to
ask
try
them
to.
to do that.
That's probably just
This
this.
is like-
That's what's moving.
Well, we did, actually.
We actually did talk.
We did talk.
Oh, yeah.
There's actually things that we put here,
That's
this is what they went off, exactly what we sent them. Anticipated
And they
square
went off
house
the
money, or, and then regular usage. Well, it's in chamber accountant's office, parks and rec office, equipment storage, proper meeting space, nonprofit events, private rental events, catering, so.
Yeah.
Then we got that. So anyway, it's just, but it doesn't mean we can't.
Is office also a standard term within the?
Well, the other thing I think they were trying to do is if there is no change of use, and there really isn't. I mean, this is how the building has been used in the past. It's been used for, exhibitions, events, offices, mostly small things. They initially changed the usage to, what was it, assembly. And if you change it to assembly, then you have to have a lot more bathrooms and you have to have entrance issues. And then you have to have all the new code stuff. But if it's essentially the same use, only.
Except, technically, you can't have 50 people in a room, then it becomes assembly.
Well, that's why, yeah.
And they could even use the term 29, I think I heard him say, the 29 numbers, which,
Yeah, that's when we met with fire marshal and building inspector. That was like, if you have more people, then you have to have a second bathroom. That's why we're talking about the second bathroom at the top of the stairs. Because there will be times when there'll be more than, people show up.
But look, even taking your perspective, you put a second bathroom at the top of the stairs for people to use, for events, can be inventory, and then you try to turn that into an apartment. You think somebody in the second floor is gonna want to use their bathroom?
No.
No. The way it's laid out, it's a big, long bathroom and it's wide. And it has one toilet and one sink, which is silly. You could have a lavatory for the private apartment, or you could have a walk-through space there. And you could just have a toilet and a sink and off the landing, and then a door that they unlock to their apartment. And the toilet and sink is accessible to the public if needed. And the rest of it is totally inaccessible to the apartment without a key.
Which is
And ownership.
So that's what it's been.
Yeah. Now, the only thing I'm suggesting that would be different is to make part of that bathroom a second lavatory for when you have more than, so you don't have a line at the ADA compliant bathroom.
All right, well, let's take a look, all those ideas are good, obviously, and see, and come back with some suggestions and take a look, chew on it a little bit. And then we'll see what we do tomorrow.
No, but for years, I've been asking for hard numbers and a plan, and we
Oh,
have that.
Yeah, we do.
We have that, we finally have that, that's great, thank you, Tim, thank you,
And
David.
thank you so much for
And,
taking the proposal off the desk and getting it active.
Yeah, no, thank you, so we have some of it hard and fast, we have designs that we'll still talk about and maybe tweak. And then we'll see what happens tomorrow, because now we have numbers, and if any of this is going to ever come to fruition, you have to figure out how to secure X amount of funds, whatever that is.
Right, different methods, absolutely.
And that will take tomorrow and beyond, so.
So I guess we should talk a little bit, so we're all on the same page about tomorrow. Because I understand where you're coming from, that you don't want to delve into this because we haven't actually agreed on what we're gonna do. But Glenn, what you're saying is you want to start the process of talking to them about grant funding. And this is the key to getting grant funding.
Well, not just
And
this,
if this is the key to getting grant funding, yes, at some point, if Marina needs this, maybe she doesn't. I mean, I heard that maybe all of this doesn't affect getting the house on the state registry. That's what they said.
No, but
But
it would be key to getting a grant.
Yeah.
it would be key to getting a grant. And I do know Marina really wanted to meet today, couldn't do it, and was hoping that they could meet tomorrow, couldn't. So, which she really, it's been very difficult. Yes, you know, getting all this together. But she has worked with them. That's why I was very excited.
So I don't, so tomorrow, you're right, I don't think.
Yeah, I just want to get.
No, no, we haven't even finalized this, what we think, but
But tell her we're doing the plans and looking at it, absolutely.
we can talk to her about that, we can talk about the generalities of what happened today.
We're in
and,
the draft preliminary.
Draft preliminary, so,
I don't know, I didn't want to ever sit down and go, what do you think this room should be? You know, I don't know.
But our office also administers the grants for repairs and restoration.
yes.
And planning.
And what-
There's a planning grant.
And there's a planning grant.
Yeah. And one of the requirements to get a grant from the state is to have a needs assessment. It's one of the reasons that I was pushing so hard a year ago. We need the needs assessment because we can't apply for grants without a
Mhm,
needs
that's right.
assessment.
Yeah.
So we have it, and we'll talk to her all about this, and I thought, she doesn't, we haven't even just finalized this yet, so.
There's all, when we talk grants, so we'll segue into that for a sec. There are things I've popped down the seminar yesterday, I saw it come up and I'm like, I didn't really pay attention to it before. But it was an economic development piece. And in the middle of it all, it had SHPO, state economic development, and all their integrated pieces to it. I'm like, holy crap. So I took a screenshot of it and just looked at it today. I have to go back and I actually requested the whole thing because there's a bunch of stuff in there that it had nothing to do with us. They're talking about big development of Waterbury Bridge. And I'm like, okay, we're not going to be there. But they just start talking about how you bundle your grants and how you work things like that. Which just in general, to the board, we got to have a grant writer.
I know.
I mean, we're going to have to look at that. We're going to have to seriously, because I mean, I got a ton of them, just trying to go through them all and it's crazy. But the economic development piece with the chamber and with others, whether they're going to store stuff or actually use it, but we certainly want more of an economic and even to be outside of the chamber because they're an organization based on membership. And there's a lot of people around here that don't have membership that are important or have been around for a while. I'm not even sure who's a member anymore of the chamber. I keep asking, are you a member? Yeah. Are you a member? No. Okay, but still, we need to transcend that as a town. Work with the chamber, work with everyone else. So building that economic development group, whatever we want to call it, committee, as well as for this, and then bring this all together with someone who can help us.
Yeah, some,
That's great,
a
great.
group that
I
can
mean, I was
help
just thinking that
identify
yesterday.
needs that are missing in town to address things like entertainment issues and, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. We good so far? I
think so.
Thursday at 3, so we can get out it's.
We have our, yeah, that's fine. And then
Yes.
tomorrow,
Speaking of economic development, do you have any current knowledge of what's going on with Birchill?
We talked about that. I've got to make a phone call over to the Apple people over here to find out what is going on with that. Heard different things.
Does the building inspector, can he just walk in there anytime and see what's going on?
No inspection going on.
not unless they have a permit, open permit, or there's a.
Let me go ahead and
Yeah, we,
to get to.
No?
All right, everybody else, see you tomorrow.
To get to.
Oh, we have to.
Oh, yeah. All in favor, make sure to adjourn.
Second,
Okay. All in favor.
We're 24.
or 24.
Yeah.
Thank you, folks.